I'm going to answer Tara K's question. The question I will be addressing is, of these three viewpoints, which do you feel most accurately describes our viewpoints on the fight against ISIS? First off, I really enjoyed this question, made me really think. I believe that our fight with ISIS terrorism is defined as the first perspective described. Cederberg describes terrorism as in the context of an enemy to be defeated in war. With being under randomized attacks, increasing fear across the nation and world, the fight with ISIS definitely fits the criteria as an enemy of the state, and I believe will not be stopped until an action to wipe out their members is enacted on. I do not believe the second definition applies, as it states terrorism, like crime, will not disappear. It can only be contained, and criminals are normally caught after they commit their crimes. I agree with only the first part. Terrorism will never end, much like crime. The second part I feel does not fit as a perspective on ISIS terrorism because they do not seem to value any life form, as even their own members are constantly committing suicide in these acts of terrorism. If they do not care to kill oneself, they certainly would not care about being caught and placed in a prison. Another point that makes me disagree with this perspective is that there have been circumstances where terrorists who have been captured in the U.S. have been released as an attempt to make deals with their country. One example of this being Obama releasing a former Guantanamo inmate who later was found to be involved in the Al-Qaeda leadership. If terrorists do not face any dire consequences, the perspective of terrorism as crime is irrelevant. Lastly, the third perspective is of terrorism seen as an illness, which I disagree with. The current day and age we live in wants to define any abnormal behavior as an illness, mental or not. I believe that human behavior can easily perform unspeakable acts as it's not necessarily a mental illness. Violence used to be needed when we were hunting our own food and is programmed into our human nature. I personally just disagree with the last statement because I am reluctant of any mental diagnosis having to do with violence.